when color vision research meets myopia control, this article is from Review of Myopia Management, and it's drawing attention to the emerging link between color vision research and myopia control. The piece explores how discoveries involving retinal contrast processing and cone photoreceptor genetics helped inspire the contrast theory of myopia and the development of new technologies like sight glasses, vision, diffusion optics technology, spectacle lenses. The article highlights a growing belief that future myopia treatments may rely not only on optical defocus, but also on how the retina interprets contrast and visual signaling. This article was written by friend of the show, Ashley Tucker, who it has been on the show before. Cary, I'm going to throw it over to you. What can you tell us about this piece?
Yeah, just talking about color vision. First off, I've done a lot of work in this field, and I used the Chromogen lens back in the day, and we did help patients who had these color deficiencies. Came in from all over the country to see us, but here it's interesting because we're talking about these receptors that are not firing correctly, the color receptors, and they're creating this problem. And it's something that they notice is the myopia effect. It's created more myopia, and we also notice this with color vision patients too. And so the question begs you, why are these patients more susceptible? And so this led then to this contrast sensitivity theory that that this contrast is really what's happening. In other words, if the retina just gets a clear signal, you're in trouble. Just one clear signal, because it's that signal is going to dictate where it's going, But if the retina, if you can confuse the eye brain combination and give it two different signals, one with more noise, more confusion, blur, same thing, and then another one that's clearer, then they won't be able to make a choice between the two. You get stability. And so the worst thing we can do then is to put single vision glasses on progressing myopes, which create that really clear signal and create hyperopic defocus in the periphery, and cause that sclera then to adjust, for the hyperopic defocus. So it's interesting because it's another confirmation. It's coming from another point, different research, but it's coming to the same conclusions. I think here that that we're dealing with this. Why is this working? What is it about Ortho-K? Which was really the granddaddy of all these methods. Of optical methods. What did that work? We didn't know back in the day what we were doing. We knew what we were doing with Ortho-K, kind of, but we didn't know why we were creating them, suppressing the myopia changes. And, to have Earl Smith and the rest of them come along with the primates and everything else to confirm that. So yes, very interesting study, another confirmation. I think we can add that to our arsenal of data and information. We're still not there. These are just theories. We're still out in the infancy of this field, if you think about it, as far as research. But yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction here.
Yeah. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah. And Matt, I will be very interested when you have the folks on who designed this and can speak to it on an academic level. It's definitely interesting. I tend to be I guess kind of a globalist in terms of the mechanisms. I kind of think that we're probably not discovering two unique pathways. I tend to think of them as, contrast is just another way to describe or another aspect of the defocus that we're already familiar with. So yeah, as we learn more, it'll be really interesting to see, are those two unique pathways? Are they two sides of the same coin? And if they were two separate things, that's what becomes really exciting, because now we can maximize both of them and get a double effect. And so I don't have a whole lot to add to that, just because it's a little bit over my head in terms of the science as of this moment. But again, I think it's new and exciting, and there are a lot that nobody knows. So I'm excited to hear more as time goes on. And always a fascinating topic with the competing mechanisms.
Just to give you a little sidelight on this, guys, I can do this because of all the years, right? So spherical aberration, right, which is the driver. This was our God savior, everything that created the myopia control. So back in the day, we were criticized because we were creating spherical aberration for these people, kids and people in vision. How could you do this to another human being? They paraded out all the biggies in optometry, everybody else, criticizing us orthokertologists. And it turned out at the end, we had our day, didn't we? Because it was actually the spherical aberration that was controlling the myopia. And that for me, that was rich. That was because we had been criticized for years and years, the fact that we were creating this awful spherical aberration. The human visual system could never tolerate it. That kind of nonsense. So, yeah.
But spherical aberration increases contrast, or I should say decreases contrast.
Yeah.
I said that backwards.
Yeah.
And so again, is it the spherical aberration or is it the contrast? Or are they
remember
the same?
too that we're nailing the center. We're giving them distance.
Yeah.
So they're getting they're getting a good contrast compared to the bad contrast.
Yep.
Good signal, bad signal. No, no growth.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
I mean, the whole argument really does push, should we be rethinking about how all myopia control interventions are actually working, right? Like I'm reminded of what Caroline and Randy Kojima presented at the last Vision by Design. It's like we're coming up with all this new information, all of these new variables, and it's making me wonder if we're like, is this contrast theory of myopia, is this going to influence axial growth? Like, are we going to be looking at a future where we have a genetic profile for every pediatric patient? You know what I mean? Do you think we'll reach that point in the future?
I think it's something that it's like something we'll never. It's like you become a part of the experiment, kind of a thing. You're as an observer. There really is an observer and a thing that you're observing. You are part of that. I think we're eventually going to find that. I think one of the things that's most amazing for me is in Ortho-K, is the effect in Ortho-K, that when we make these high myopia prescriptions, we create almost a pinhole of treatment zone, and a human visual system deals with that and deals with it well. And everybody says, well, how can you see through a 1.5 millimeter pupil, And yet here they are, functioning very adequately, by the way, right? And so we're dealing with something that's bigger than we are. Do we understand how all those wheels and all the wires get? No, and we're not even close. I don't know, maybe I don't even want to be there when we figure it out, because that's too, that's too scary. I'd rather have the box.
What would be the fun in having all the answers anyway? Yeah.
I know, right?